Hello Internet, this is going to be inspired by the Wasp from Ant-Man 2. I was originally using a set photo as my reference image and then decided to actually use a cosplay helmet of the Wasp as my reference image because I actually felt like it would be a bit easier to adapt. Since I wanted to avoid using a bald cap, what I did is I straightened my hair and then I dampened it lightly and then I used hair mousse to try to flatten it down and then to give myself kind of a better surface to paint onto. Since I was planning on painting into my hair, I used Elmer's washable glue sticks. After you've spent a million years doing that, then what I did is I washed my face and I applied moisturizer and foundation. I always prefer to start my makeups with foundation. It might just be a personal preference though, but I feel like it gives me more of a bland canvas to work with. Also, it's quite the educational experience if you ever wanted to know what you would look like as a potato. So I just went ahead and I got orange, and this is Maron Paradise Paints. Something that I noticed that I like to do when it comes to something like glasses, lenses, is I actually leave it a little bit watered down. I feel like watering down the color a bit kind of gives it more of a translucent look that is more realistic to lenses. So step one with doing the shape of these goggles is first you're gonna make a bird. Kind of just like a lazy V shape. So it kind of looks like you have like an orange unibrow. There's going to be a point, like if you're looking straight ahead, there's going to be a point with these wings right where your irises are. And then the line is going to be angled more towards your ears. Once it's angled towards your ears a bit until you've reached about the corners of your eyes, then it is going to be directed completely downward. And then another point again, right where your iris is. A point directed towards your nose that ends at about the inner corner of your eyes. And then from there you can just connect it to the bridge of your nose. And all of that is filled in with the same kind of watered down orange shade. Once I had that first color down, then I wanted to make sure that I had a firm shape of the goggles down, so then I just got a really skinny brush and I went ahead and I framed the lenses. I started out with kind of a really thin frame, just get a black outline around it. And then looking at the reference photo, I went ahead and I lifted up the kind of particular points. And then I mixed that orange with just a little bit of brown. Both of them, again, are a little bit watered down. And I began to apply that kind of in a thick line around the edge because now we're kind of building up that shadow to try to create some depth. I again added more brown to the orange, and then this is going to go with kind of a thinner brush and just on the outer edges. There is going to be more shading later on with eyeshadow. That is something that I personally really love to do with. I love to shade with eyeshadow, but for now this is what we're doing, at least with the shading with the paint inside of the goggles. Throughout this entire look, I'm going to be flip-flopping back and forth a lot, doing shading and highlighting as we're building up different elements. And this is the first round of highlighting that we are doing to the goggles. I also went ahead and I used the white paint to just put in, there's kind of these tiny little screws that are at the very top of the lenses, like where the frame is holding them on. So I just went ahead and I used white paint to illustrate that. So even though the Wasp is super busy doing like Wasp stuff, she still has time to do her eye makeup because she has her priorities straight. So I took this really soft gray and I just applied that all over the lid. Then I used an angled brush and some brown eyeshadow to go ahead and make my eyebrows. She has pretty thin eyebrows, so I just really lightly filled in my existing ones. I also used dark eyeshadow to really lightly line my eyes because again, she has really natural eye makeup. And then just a little bit of marker eyeliner on the top lid. And then curl and mascara. Trying to figure out the placement of her mouth vent thing was really awkward. I decided the most comfortable place to put it would be just basically right over my mouth and as close to my nose as possible. So I used kind of a large eyeshadow and I put that over my mouth, and then I used a white eyeliner pencil to trace around it. Then I went in with white paint and I filled that in. Once I had my circle done, I used a tiny brush to go ahead and start with the first circle. I then very slowly drew. And then you're going to draw 3 more circles in this tiny little space. There's kind of a tiny, strange, like vent-like thing near the top with that first inner circle. Once you get to the last one, then you're going to make two kind of short pieces of macaroni that are just like facing each other. You'll see what I mean. I know that sounds weird, but just look at what it looks like. It's macaroni. Then I took some gray eyeshadow and I went ahead and I just started adding some shading. So this wasn't just a bright white. Even though the mask itself was silver, the reference that I was using was a Wasp cosplay mask, and it is silver, but obviously I didn't want to use silver face paint. Just not a fan of using metallic. So I started with a white base and just we're gonna put so much gray and shading and highlighting on here. Then I went in with a small brush and some white face paint, and I started some highlighting on the mouthpiece. Since our macaroni are actually holes / vent type things, those got outlined. Also this kind of effect that I see that I really like, in which when you're trying to do a metallic surface, you just kind of do some light swipes of white. Sometimes it's more effective than others, but I did just some really light swiping of just white in the very middle, again, to like not only highlight it, but to hopefully give it more of a metallic appearance. I got a foundation brush and some kind of watered down white face paint. And when I say watered down, I don't mean like, I don't mean completely transparent. I just mean, I'm talking about like kind of watered down where it's the stage right before it gets creamy. Inside, for the most part, filled in the top half with the white face paint. I then used my white eyeliner pencil and I decided to go ahead and sketch out the side vents on her face, which are kind of like two rectangles, and one is a little bit fatter than the other one, and they're just out of sync. They're just not quite stacked on top of each other. Once I had the outlines done for those, I went ahead and I went in with most of the rest of our white face paint, and then we fill in those side vents, as well as kind of some like lightning bolt shaped vent things. I'm sure there's an actual, like, a legitimate reason for each of these features that I'm just calling side thingies and vent thingies, but this is what we've got. And then we get back to the eyeshadow. It's that gray eyeshadow that we just used for the eyelids, but now we're going to use it to shade kind of the lightning bolt shaped things. And then also use white paint to highlight the lightning bolts and then our little fat rectangles. I attempted some kind of funky contouring. There's these really straight, firm lines on the nose of the Wasp mask, and I tried to imitate those here. And if you're like me and your nose is not symmetrical whatsoever, this might look a little bit wrong, like mine did. I give it an A for effort though. I tried to subtly use some gray eyeshadow to kind of add these extra dents that I saw, and then more highlighting. This is the highlighting that I promised, more of it. There's gonna be more too, but this is like, I don't know, this is like second or third stage highlighting. And this is more shading with the eyeshadow, which is one of my favorite things ever to do, because like when you're doing shadows, oh my gosh, just like eyeshadow is just so wonderfully soft. As long as your paint, and that's the important part, if we had applied the paint really creamy, then the way that it would have set, we could not use eyeshadow. Your eyeshadow basically needs like an incredibly smooth, even surface, because if your paint is built up too much and you have those, the bumps and the valleys, it's gonna come off looking, you're just gonna look like a dirty hobo. Anyway, this is kind of a navy blue colored eyeshadow on an angled brush, and again I had that angled brush just kind of hugging the edge of the lens and just sweeping along and then blending out. I also decided that I really liked how intense and smoky that it looked, so I also applied a little bit of that to our lightning bolts, as well as using it to kind of intensify the circles on our mouth. And then there's more highlighting. Oh, and then I finally noticed there's like these black stripes that extend from those peaks on the top of the goggles that stretch out into the forehead. So those are easy to add, at least. Then I get kind of a fluffy brush, and I've got that gray eyeshadow that we used for some of our shading and that we also used on the eyelid, and I just kind of apply some shadows as if, it's a helmet. This step is optional, and it was a little impulsive, but this is just craft foam from Dollar Tree, and I cut 2 circles and then 2 kind of eye looking things, and I glued those together using Graftobian Pro adhesive. And then I glued those onto the side of my head. And whenever I paint my craft foam, I use my body paints, and I use foam from the dollar store. One last thing, as I kept looking at the reference photos, something that I really, really love about this actress's makeup is they put highlighter on her eyelid or something. I don't know. I dug it, and it wouldn't ruin our lens effect, so I just used some highlighter, and I applied that to my brow bone, just for that shimmer like she has. And that is it. This was PTBarpun for FacePaintcom. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hopefully next time my voice will not sound like this. Whatever day it is that you're seeing this, I hope you're having a good one, and I will see you the next time I do video stuff. Bye.